Yesterday, the Biden administration recklessly deepened their involvement in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine by inviting Ukrainian troops to come train on U.S. soil. They'll be heading to Fort Sill in Oklahoma as early as next week to learn how to use the Patriot missile defense system. They'll be learning how to operate a Patriot battery, which can take out attack planes, cruise missiles, and even some ballistic missiles. And I'm not sure how they think this is not a total provocation that could lead us into World War III. But here they are doing it anyway. Author Lucas Gage is a veteran United States Marine Corps officer who served 2 tours of duty in Iraq and has been outspoken against these proxy wars and the new forever war in Ukraine. That's what I'm calling it, because that's what it seems like it's going to be. Lucas, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kim, glad to be. I just have to say, I wasn't an officer. I was a corporal. See my
corporal. Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry
not
about
an
that.
Officer. So it's okay. No,
sorry
nice
about that.
To be an officer. No, but anyway, so yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I'm glad that you're reporting on this stuff because Americans just don't see what's going on. They're being told Ukraine is winning. This is probably the greatest propaganda I've ever seen for any war ever, in my experience. I mean, I was in Iraq twice, and I don't remember that being too much propaganda other than they just kept repeating weapons of mass destruction, ties to Al-Qaeda, 9/11. So most of the Americans were primed because of 9/11. But this war is like, what the hell do we have to do with Ukraine? So they're really pumping up the effort to just tell Americans they're winning, but we got to send more money. Zelensky's at the Golden Globes. I need more money. I need more this. It just never stops. It's like this black hole of just sending billions there. So they have to keep telling us that, we have to keep supporting it. And now, like you said, how is this not going to escalate into more of a conflict with Russia when it takes months to train these people? So that just tells you that these want to extend this war forever. I mean,
right? Yeah, the fact that it takes months for one is telling. Like, they're not thinking this is going to end soon. The fact that it takes 6 months to train on this particular system. The second thing is the fact that they're coming to U.S. soil. I mean, it's one thing for them to be over in Ukraine receiving our weapons. It's another thing for them to go head into Poland in order to get some training. But for them to be coming to Oklahoma, to be training here on the U.S. soil, I'm just kind of, how is this? I mean, this is one step away from just sending U.S. combat troops ourselves and saying, all right, let's just go ahead and start engaging in war. I would just think that Russia would look at this and say, we are at war with NATO. I mean, they're already saying that, but that seems to be even more blatantly in their face if we're training Ukrainian troops. Now, I do want to tell you what General Pat Ryder told reporters. He did say that it would take several months. He also said that, he basically essentially said that this is going to be a while and that we're going to be doing this for quite some time. And that came from the general's mouth. So, I mean, when you were over in Iraq, and it became obvious. I mean, did it at some point become obvious that this was just an engagement, kind of another forever war type thing, that there were no weapons of mass destruction? And did you guys start questioning, like, why are we here? I mean, does that happen? Because I would think this would be kind of happening in Ukraine.
Well, I was in the first invasion. So 2003, I went to Iraq. So the first invasion there was Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then OIF2 was 2004. So I was there in the beginning, so we didn't really learn that we were being lied to yet. It was afterward, after my service. Oh, we didn't find any weapons of mass destructions. Oh, we were actually committing war crimes. Julian Assange talking about how the helicopters shooting people, shooting the trucks. And I learned actually we were the baddies from my research while still in the Marine Corps when I looked up the Battle of Fallujah, and I started seeing we were using white phosphorus on people, which could burn you. It's not a chemical weapon, but it burns you alive. So I'm like, well, I thought we were the good guys. So during the end of my service, started to realize I was lied to. Something's off. And so, this kind of happened. The truth came out later. But now, because of Iraq, people question almost every war. I mean, the Syrian conflict we were questioning, Afghanistan, people started questioning, and look how we left that mess. So Americans I think we all have war fatigue. So that's why this push for Ukraine is every possible propaganda you can imagine, from the ghost of Kiev to Putin has no missiles, but at the same time, he'll take over all of Europe if we don't stop him. Just contradictory nonsense. It makes no sense at all that people see right through it. But unfortunately, Kim, some people, they believe in this whole spread democracy thing to the point where they don't even see the truth in front of them. They just really think that we're doing a good thing for the Ukrainians when we're actually putting them in a suicide mission.
Yeah. I'm just curious if any of the troops, I mean, we haven't sent any over to Ukraine yet. I mean, I would hope that we
Well, we
don't
have
end
we
up
have
escalating.
advisors. Apparently,
Right.
according to Colonel
Right.
McGregor and other people like Phil Girardi, they said we already have advisors on the ground, whatever the hell that means. The Poles are on the ground. Some Polish troops are there. We even have jihadists there. Apparently, we've taken people from Syria that are assets like ISIS and Al Qaeda fighter rebels. They've been caught by the Russians saying, "Yeah, I get 1,500 from France or NATO, whatever the case." So we have a bunch of people there because the Ukrainian casualties are so high. But they're saying, no, the Russian casualties, there's always going to be conflicting reports. But
Right.
most of the reports that we hear from the mainstream media come from Ukraine. And they're not going to tell us that they're losing because then we wouldn't send them billions after billions of dollars.
Right.
But if you asked me to, I want to build a house, or here's 100,000, and I keep giving you 100,000, I'm like, did you build the house yet, Kim? Where's this house? Oh no, it's not there yet. Oh, here's another 100,000. It's like, where is the victory? Where are the gains? Or what are you doing to stop the Russians? You're not stopping the Russians. It's obvious to any of us who have, who are not being clouded by our emotions and propaganda, which is the point of the propaganda, is to make people not think clearly about what's going on. I mean, look,
Right.
you have a nuclear superpower versus the state that has no nuclear weapons, that nobody wants to go to World War III for. Macron said, we don't want to go to World War III. They are using Ukraine as a proxy military. That's what they're doing, and they'll fight to the last Ukrainian, no problem. So, it's not surprising that they're going to bring them here, train them with this Patriot stuff, and and they're going to get destroyed anyway, even with the Patriot missiles. We're going to just lose more equipment. More Ukrainian lives are going to be lost. And for what? What is this all for, Kim?
What is it all for? And that is the big question. And that is really what is different between this and Iraq. I mean, at least with Iraq, you went there thinking, I am going to defend America because we were just attacked. We were attacked. It wasn't, it wasn't like, okay, we've got this country on a map that most people don't even know where it is exactly. Right. And, with Ukraine, it's a completely different situation. Even Afghanistan, there was the impetus of, well, we're fighting the Taliban because the Taliban, right. I mean, they were able to connect, even though it wasn't accurate, there were a lot of half-truths or just flat-out lies. At least the troops were told, you're protecting America because America was attacked, or the bad guy that attacked America is there, and that's why we're going there. But that's not going to be able to be done with Ukraine unless the American people are, and some of them maybe have been, gaslit or brainwashed enough to believe that Russia is truly an enemy of America looking to destroy us. And I think a lot of us don't buy that. We're not at that point thinking, oh yeah, Russia's just totally coming after us and wanting to attack us and destroy us. So there's a bit of a different sentiment there. So I would imagine that when the Ukrainian troops exhaust themselves and they just say, look, we just don't want to do this anymore, we don't want to fight anymore, we've had it, then the question is, okay, if we're going to keep this up, is the U.S. going to start sending NATO troops in? And that means American soldiers. And do you think, in your opinion, that American troops would be willing to, I mean, they'd have no choice, I would imagine, if they got called up and they had to go, they'd have to go. I mean, what could realistically, what could somebody do if they're in the U.S. military, they're told they have to go fight in Ukraine, they don't want to? Is there any sort of thing they could even do? Or do they just have to go because they're in the military?
I mean, I think aside from being court-martialed, disobeying an order, I don't know exactly how you would pull out of that. But we already have mercenaries there. There are American mercenaries who've gone there already, and it's not surprising if we have special forces that we don't know of. I mean, we're only being told what we know from many people we might understand who are former CIA or something like that, but we don't know what the Pentagon's literally doing. I'm not there with generals like, hey, tell me what you're doing. I don't see Americans sending full-on forces like we did with Iraq. But I do see, again, them arming the Ukrainians and literally fighting to the last Ukrainian, and other countries sending their little mercenary forces there as well. I mean, we had that Mozart group there, which, by the way, the guy admitted they were committing war crimes when he was drunk on the podcast. I don't know if you saw that. But it is just a cluster F is what it is over there. Yeah. It is a disaster. And I feel bad for the Ukraine. I came into this war to neutral. I was like, there's something up with this war. Let me see if I can see. And I noticed the NAFO bots, the dogs attacking you. If you're a Putin shill, you're a fascist. It's like, whoa, bro, I just want to know what's going on. So this is no doubt a war that has been so propagandized to the point where you must want to support the destruction of Russia completely and the execution of Putin. Otherwise, you're a shill. It's like, no, I just want peace. And I think the Ukrainians should sit down and talk peace. And every time they're offered peace, they reject it every single time. Even during this last Christmas thing, Putin's like, why don't we relax for a minute? Nope. Got to keep fighting. So the Ukrainians are unfortunately have been brainwashed to go on a suicide mission. And I don't think, like France, again, Macron said no World War III. Other people don't. Italy doesn't want to do it. They send a package of weapons. So I don't think that Europe wants to actually fight a war directly with Russia, because how can you defeat them? They're a nuclear power. So, even J.J. Mersheimer said, Putin will not let Ukraine win this war. It's just not possible. This is a red line that's been crossed over and over again. Angela Merkel and others have admitted the mixed agreements were just a way to delay the process, let Ukrainians arm themselves. I mean, they've done everything. Look, once they assassinated Daria Dugin, blew up the pipeline, these are acts of desperateness. This is not an act of a military that's winning. It seems to me, even if you're not a military strategist, you're not some general who's retired sitting there looking at a war, like a map or something, you could just logically deduce, well, what the hell are these people doing? Why are they doing these horrible things? Literally war crimes, literally assassinating civilians. They're not winning. And we keep sending them money over and over again. So could the U.S. be drawn into it? I don't think Americans would tolerate that. But It seems to me they like being looted for money by Zelensky.
Right.
There's a meme out there, learn how to make $100 billion from home. And it's Zelensky sitting there.
But mercenaries, maybe. Yeah, maybe more American mercenaries would go over there and they'd say, oh, you just finished your 4 years. You can go and sign up to be a mercenary and go fight in Iraq.
Well, listen, fight in
Ukraine.
Yeah, even when I was in Iraq, they had Blackwater mercenaries.
Right.
And these guys were getting 120,000 doing the same thing I'm doing, but I'm getting nothing. It's like, and these guys are running around backward Nike hats with 4x4 trucks and doing whatever the hell they want with the beards and everything. So there's always going to be mercenaries. There's always going to be private, security, which is another word for mercenary. So there's always an opportunity for people who want to get out there and kill people and make money. There's no question about that.
That shouldn't even be allowed.
I just don't see the U.S. military engaging like, all right, guys, we declare war on Russia. I don't see that. It's too dangerous. Europe is not, because look, maybe America would have the chutzpah to do it, but the Europeans are like, well, I don't know. Russia's right there. Let's not do that. So I think the Europeans are suffering the most.
It's such a national security problem. I really think that every American should be banned from fighting over there. It should be illegal to be an American citizen, go over there and fight Russia. That should be illegal because we don't want to escalate into. We don't want Russia looking and saying, "This is an American. We're fighting against Americans. We are now at war with America. Therefore, we are going to war with America." That is not what we want. And so that the whole idea of mercenaries going over and fighting, no matter which the war is, it shouldn't be allowed. We have a U.S. military. That is the mechanism for these types of things. There's negotiations, control. There are all of these. You shouldn't be allowed to sign up to go murder people. Without being under the banner of the U.S. military, I suppose. But, that I don't understand that one at all. I do want to move on to this because this week the ambassador for Ukraine in the United Kingdom told Newsweek that Ukraine becoming a member of NATO is inevitable and logical. He said, quote, Ukraine will be full of NATO weaponry and the people will be prepared. So what's the difference? Just place a seat at the table, is what he said. So that is the thing. That is the one thing, right? I mean, like you said, there's been the Minsk Accords. There's been, of course, the promises that were made to Gorbachev. We actually know now from documents, declassified documents that were released in 2017, they found that, Gorbachev was told that NATO wouldn't move past the East German border. There's a lot of documentation that he was led to believe this. The Russians have been led to believe this. And now here we are continually expanding. And Ukraine is that last line. I mean, we expanded into the Baltic states. Now going into Ukraine is really, truly, I mean, you cannot get any closer. Many of them, most of them actually speak Russian, whether it be their first or second language. They feel very, very connected culturally to Russia. Many of them are ethnically Russian. I mean, this is as close to Russia as you could possibly get without making Russia NATO, which they've asked to be in the past. I mean, what are we doing here? I mean, do you think that this is going to escalate into World War III? Do you think we're going to make Ukraine, for example, an actual member of NATO? Or do you think that this guy, who's the ambassador, is just hopeful and saying more hopeful rhetoric?
Well, like I will once again refer to J.J. Mersheimer. He basically said Russia will not allow it. They will literally, utterly destroy Ukraine if they have to. And look, they want peace. They don't want to destroy Ukraine. A lot of people say, well, look how stupid this argument is. Russia wants to take all of Ukraine, right? If Putin takes all of Ukraine, then he's right there, and it defeats the whole purpose of making it a buffer state. And this is logic
Right.
101. Why would he do that? He doesn't want. He just wants a neutral Ukraine like we had before. But then,
Right.
2014, we had a coup there, and then we installed these people that hate Russia. Then they start ethnically cleansing the people in the region, which of course caused the problem. And Putin's like, stop doing it for 8 years. And I was like, we've had enough of this. So, that's why he invaded. But the media is like, oh, they start with the invasion. Putin invaded, unprovoked, fascism. They don't talk
Right.
about what these people did to these ethnic Russians, basically saying it's illegal to speak Russian. You can't do this, you can't do that. So that's where the media always tricks people. They just start with the invasion, but that's not the case. It's much more complicated. And a lot of people say, well, if Putin wants peace, he should just leave. It's much more complicated than that. These are ethnic Russians. They're not going to let you genocide them with shelling and all these other things that they've done. So could it lead to World War III? Again, I don't think Europe wants it. They're more than willing to try to weaken Russia. This is about weakening Russia, if you ask me. It's not about actually, they're not going to defeat Russia with Ukraine. It's not going to happen. It's not like Zelensky and the troops are going to go to Moscow and take it over. They just want to weaken Russia. They hope that Russia would collapse somehow. But then look, they're trying to push this BRICS idea. They're getting closer to China. They're becoming strong. Everything we've done to Russia is making them stronger while we're hurting. The sanctions are hurting us. They're hurting the Europeans are going to have a very terrible winter. It's like they're already suffering. The food's going up. They're blaming everything on Putin. We're doing it to ourselves. So if you listen to Putin have his speeches, he's saying everything's great. We're getting stronger. Our economy is stronger. We're getting closer to China. We're making alliances. And look at Saudi Arabia. They want to drop the petrodollar, and that's game over for America. We've become so unpredictable, and we're such a terrorist state that even Saudi Arabia is done with us. That's really going to be game over. So we have to be careful, and we're not, because our leaders are psychopaths. So I hope it doesn't escalate to anything. But like you said, if you have troops there, American troops, or we start hearing Americans are dying, that might spark Americans to want to fight. But again, we all know we shouldn't be there. So it's like you shouldn't put our troops there in the first place. And again, because Russia is a nuclear power, there is no way for them to lose this war, and they will flatten Ukraine, unfortunately. So let's hope that doesn't happen. That's why I said forever now, push for peace. You lost 20% of your land. Do you want to lose 100%? Sit down and talk with the Kremlin. Sit down and talk peace. Maybe you can make some other concessions. But they're just, nope. NATO is telling the Ukrainians, because it's them. It's the U.S. and NATO. Go. Remember Boris Johnson flew down there. Zelensky was almost there. Let's have peace. No peace. So obviously I feel the Ukrainians are being used as cannon fodder, Kim. That's what we're seeing here. And that's what we're okay with. Now, if the Russians, when they win, which they will, I'm assuming this year they're going to do some damage. Now that everything's frozen, they can move their tanks more often. And they're saying, well, why didn't they win yet? Because they're not committing suicide. This isn't World War II. The Russians aren't sending millions of troops to die against the Nazis, right? They're taking their time. They're being very strategic. They know that the U.S. and NATO can't fund Ukraine forever. It's not Russia that's starving. It's not them who's freezing. It's the Europeans. It's the Ukrainians that they need supplies. How many more supplies can we give them? How many more Patriots, when we send the Patriot missiles, when they get destroyed, how many more can we send them? So Russia knows it's a waiting game. They know.
Yeah.
So they're just sitting there hanging out. They don't need to kill themselves for this.
Well, Lucas, thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts with us. Lucas Gage, he is a veteran United States Marine Corps corporal who served 2 tours of duty in Iraq. You can grab his book, Thoughts and Reflections on Life, by going to his website, lucasgage.com. Lucas, we'll have you back sooner than later, probably, to talk more about this, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it.
So I know many of us are trying to get healthy again post-pandemic. Yes, I think the pandemic's over and we need to move on with our lives. So I want to tell you guys about a new superfood product that I've been using to help make sure I get all the nutrients I need. It's called Field of Greens. It's a simple powder you can mix into a drink or sprinkle onto food. And what makes Field of Greens different is it's not made with any extracts. It's actually made with real, super high quality, freeze-dried organic fruits and vegetables. And I've been sprinkling it on salad. I actually have used it it and mixed it into salad dressing. I did that the other day. I told you about it, how I mixed it with balsamic and olive oil. But last night what I did is I just sprinkled the superfood all over my salad, and then I just used my regular dressing that I liked rather than just using, I like to mix it up. I mean, everybody likes to mix it up, right? So that is one way that I've been using it. I really like it. Honestly, it's just been a great way for me to get all of those fruits and veggies in. I mean, we're supposed to get 5 servings a day. Who has time for that? But this is a great way to get all of those greens into our system, and it tasted great. So if you want to get some for yourself, head to fieldofgreens.com, use the promo code Kim, and you'll get 15% off your first order. Again, that is fieldofgreens.com, promo code Kim.